Singapore Noodles, a vermicelli noodle dish paired with prawns, barbecue pork, and various vegetables and flavored with curry powder. When garnished with lime juice, it turns into a wondrous combination of savory and tangy. Singapore noodles have gotten so popular here in Australia that it's almost impossible not to chance upon them. You'll often find them at Chinese and Malaysian restaurants, but very rarely at Singaporean restaurants, and here's why. The dish itself has little to no connection with the city country. In fact, locals are blatantly unaware of its very existence.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there were one or two remarks to say that, oh, I love your food. I always order Singapore noodles when I'm here. And then my response would be, Singapore noodles is actually not in Singapore. Or I've never actually heard of Singapore noodles in Singapore before. And I've grown up in Singapore and I've never had Singapore noodles.
The exact origins of Singapore noodles is very hard to pin down. But several sources suggest that it was a Cantonese creation from the 1950s, commonly found in restaurants and street stalls of Hong Kong. In a 2018 article, food writer and researcher Xie Ng told Esquire Singapore that she didn't associate her Singaporean identity with Singapore noodles. And this seems to be the general consensus among Singaporeans.
I was actually proud that Singapore is on someone's menu overseas, but I was also curious, what is Singapore noodles? And I think I was with my mom and dad when we first came to Melbourne and we ordered this. This was 10 years ago. Kind of disappointed that's how Singapore is represented in the world.
So how did Singapore even get roped into this? Well, Singapore noodles is based on an actual Singaporean noodle dish dating back to the 1920s called Sin Zhou Mi Fen. This directly translates to Star Region rice noodles. And Sin Zhou was what Singapore used to be called before gaining independence in 1965. Except this version doesn't possess that curry flavor that Singapore noodles is famous for. In fact, through British colonization was how a Western condiment like curry powder wound up in Sin Zhou Mi Fen in the first place, making the famed Singapore noodles. It was prepared by Cantonese communities and brought back to Hong Kong by the 1940s, where it was popularized. Because of this, one might argue that Singapore noodles is indeed from Singapore. But the truth of the matter is, Singaporeans simply do not identify to the dish. In fact, any attempt at ordering Singapore noodles in the Lion City will fetch you a myriad of confused looks.
I'm confused.
Just name it as it is. Just like fried curry noodles. In Singapore, we have Hong Kong noodles, right? But what is Hong Kong noodles,
It is true that the key aspects and flavor profile of Singapore noodles are reminiscent of Singaporean cuisine. Yet locals believe that there are other Singaporean dishes more deserving of the global recognition Singapore noodles has received.
I think first and foremost, everyone will say chili crab, right? Because it's iconic. But if it's something more of a daily food and stuff like that, we could maybe look at things like Hokkien Mee. In Singapore, these are the kind of food that we eat, like nasi lemak, char kway teow, Hainanese chicken rice, even though there isn't the word Singapore in it. And more often than not, the food is actually probably originate from our neighboring countries. But yeah, these are the food that actually reminds me of home. And this is the kind of food that if I see overseas, I would sort of associate it with home or Singapore.
But if you're still craving an authentic Singaporean dish that is similar to Singapore noodles, try the OG version, Sin Zhou Mi Fen. Now that borders are reopening, if you do make a trip to Singapore, what Singaporean dishes would you want to try?